it in great detail, just tell you more the story of how all of those things fit together. So, we're going to start, at our very first meeting with you, Neil, in the fall, you gave us a goal, a very ambitious goal. You said you wanted to increase the company's revenue by $2 million while keeping the same number of employees, 16 employees, almost doubling the revenue. And that was what we kept in mind as we went through our whole semester, our whole project, and did all of our analysis. So we came to the conclusion that we do believe you can get a lot more profitable and gain more revenue. And we're serious, we really think so. But it's not going to be easy. In order to get that extra revenue and profit that you're looking for, every aspect of your business needs to be aligned, and you need to turn into a continuously improving, data-driven organization. And it also might mean you have to start doing some activities that you're not currently doing to really hit that growth goal that you want. It's not easy. In this industry, as you know, right now only about 17% of the manufacturing is done in the United States, and that number has been basically steadily declining over the years. It's just the lower labor costs, it's all going overseas. At the same time, prices in the industry are also dropping, showing you how fragmented and competitive it can be. So, you need to target aggressively the customers who it makes sense to keep their business here in America. Finally, the time to act is now, because a lot of the changes that we proposed are cultural, so they take some implementation time. It's not going to happen overnight, but we think that they're important and they're part of a process that will eventually get you to the profit that you guys are after. So let's take a step back and look at the industry. Right now, the industry average is net income is 12% of revenue. Last year, Worthington Assembly, net income was 12% of revenue. So you're exactly at average, but that's obviously not where you want to be. You didn't bring in consultants and sat us down and say, can you guys keep us exactly at the status quo? You obviously have bigger goals than that. So it's important to set the goals and make them clear. One more number for you. Revenue per employee. The reason we decided to show this one to you is because that was how you framed your goal to us. You said you wanted to basically double revenue while keeping the same number of employees. So, in the industry, around 196,000, Worthington's a little bit below that. So there's some growth opportunities there, but it's important to have goals. So you said basically you wanted to double revenue while keeping the same number of employees, which is a big goal. The author of Good to Great, Jim Collins, talks about setting big goals. Goals so big that they unify the entire organization all the way from the top down, every activity, to achieve them. It's the only way you can do it. He calls them the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal. And so is the 300,000, if you were to double your revenue, keep the same number of employees, is that a big enough BHAG? And we're looking long term here. But I mean, where can we get this thing? You guys. Can you be thought of not as a manufacturing company? Is a BHAG to be sort of like a technology company? Would you be happy at 437,000 per employee? No, you wouldn't be. You want to get 500,000. Right? Just always improving. So how do you get there? The biggest growth opportunity in your business is keeping the machines running, right? That's the biggest capacity opportunity that we see, that you can really make some improvements. Not just running, though, running with the right kinds of jobs. Every customer is not created equal. You're better suited to handle certain things. The right jobs, that's a strategy question, really. The right jobs come from the right customers. This is where marketing comes in. You need to be selectively and aggressively going after those customers to bring in the business that you want, and a lot of it, more of it. Once you have those customers, research shows that it's much easier and cheaper to keep a customer that you already have than it is to acquire a new customer. This is why a CRM and building strong relationships is important. And it'll actually make your lives easier and improve your customer service, especially as your business grows and you have more customers. Eventually, it's just going to be too much without some tools to help. And then finally, of course, you want to build great circuit boards, but you want to see, you already do that. You already have great customer service, but just building on that. Can you do it faster? Can you build great boards more cheaply? Less waste. That's where you want to be. These things all work together. The right jobs come from the right customers. You want to build strong relationships with those right customers, and then build the boards fast and efficiently, so you can get on to the next right job from the next right customer. It's a process. It's just like building a circuit board, really. Everything needs to be done. Everything needs to work together from the time you input the design into the computer all the way through the last quality inspection. If there's a failure in any one phase, we think the whole thing doesn't work. And now I'm going to pass to Jared to tell a story about a man named Victor.
All right, so let's meet Victor. Victor is an entrepreneur. He's in the Pioneer Valley. and he has a new electronic device that he's invented. He's connected with all the local startup communities, the Bethune Center, Valley Venture Mentors, TechSpring, and all the other local communities. There's an entrepreneurial renaissance happening in the Pioneer Valley. The Bethune Center was founded last year with a $10 million grant here at UMass. BVM is currently graduating 50 startups per year, and Holyoke was recently named the #6 startup city in the whole country by Popular Mechanics magazine. So there's a lot happening, and this man Victor is connected to all of it. So what else? He is also on Kickstarter. He just launched a new campaign. He's got pre-orders for 500 units of his new product, and he needs these boards built for his new product. So, but he's never done anything before with manufacturing, so he needs expertise. He needs someone that's willing to hold his hand throughout the process, someone that can offer great customer service, can solve all the problems necessary to bring his board to life. And he wants it done timely so he can keep his Kickstarter customers happy. All right, so Victor sets out to find a manufacturer. How does he come across Worthington? So let's look at two scenarios, a worst case scenario and a best case scenario. In the worst case, Victor goes to his mentor at BVM, asks them, do you know any manufacturers? They say, nope, we don't. because Worthington is not currently connected to the local startup community. They're connected in Boston. They bring in a lot of new clients from their networking in Boston, but they're not in the Pioneer Valley. So this outlet fails. Then Victor goes online. Maybe you can find Worthington there, but no, he finds other companies like Streaming Circuits and Sierra Circuits. These companies offer instant quotes. They offer quick turnarounds. These are things that he needs, so he goes for it. He goes for Streaming Circuits because they offer a 20-day turnaround guarantee. Now, what about the ideal situation? In an ideal world, Victor can go to his mentor. They'll know about Worthington. Maybe Chris went to last month's BVM meeting, networked with some people, and now they know who Worthington is. So Victor gets referred directly to Worthington. But what if that doesn't work? We can't rely totally on referrals. So maybe Victor goes online as well, and he needs to be able to find Worthington there. So we've outlined a number of digital marketing initiatives that are in our report, and we know you guys, the client, you might be reluctant at first to adopt these, so we're just putting them in the report for you for whenever the time is right for you to adopt them. Great. Okay, so now let's talk about how Victor orders his boards. So he goes to Worthington, goes to the website, follows the instructions for submitting an order by email. Now, this process requires a lot of manual steps by the Worthington staff after the fact. So this is not ideal. Also, Worthington is currently they're accepting any orders. So there might be less profitable jobs in the queue that might delay the process for Victor. Victor's job is 500 boards, the perfect size. He's the perfect customer, so it's better if they're working on his boards instead of someone else's boards. But currently, any jobs are accepted, so it might be affecting the happiness of Victor. Okay, the ideal world, Victor goes on the website, follows the instructions for submitting the board on Circuit Hub, which then automates a lot of those processes, and the convenience factor is really huge, so it's beneficial for Victor and for Worthington for that to happen. But also, selective acquisition is important. So we've outlined things to increase leads to Worthington, and later we'll talk about ways for Worthington to know more about customer profiles that are actually profitable. All right, now Nicholas will talk about the manufacturing process.
So now let's talk about the manufacturing process. Let's keep the ideal scenario. So now we have Victor as a client. Let's see this from both perspectives. If we ask Victor, like, for when do you want your circuit boards? His answer probably will be as soon as possible. On the other hand, if you ask Worthington, do you want to reduce your cost and reduce waste? Your answer will be yes. So we already know that Michael Porter says that improving operational efficiency is not a strategy. However, this will help to achieve both goals. Well, here are some of the operational recommendations. We already showed you that, so I will move quickly through these slides. Let's start talking about the receiving process. In the receiving process, you have an operator that worked really hard. She's working really good. She has experience in this department. However, if we give her more tools in order to improve the time she deals with each piece, that will help improve the process. First, we recommend a scannable barcode. At the moment she received the boxes, and she needs to introduce the code by hand, piece by piece. This takes her a lot of time. Second, we'll also talk about improving the efficiency of the receiving software you're actually handling. I know that some of recommendations you're already applying it, so that's really, really good. The third recommendation is to map the steps. It's quite hard for a person to learn what someone else is doing if they don't have a map of the steps, a standardized process of what they're doing. So let's move on to the operational efficiency. We already talked about this. This is the current situation at the plant. We have that the operator of these machines is doing the setup process at the same time she's dealing with the machines. So while she's dealing with the setup process, she's not able to watch the machines. We want to improve the amount of time you're using the machines, so we want to prevent machines from stopping. If the operator is dealing with the setup process and watching the wall, she will not be able to look at the machines. So what do we propose? We propose to move this setup station to here, so she will be capable to watch the machine. It's not only to reduce the machines from stopping, but we want to prevent machines from stopping. So these machines have certain lights that shows the operator when they're running out of pieces. But while she's watching the wall, she will not be able to deal with that. If she starts watching the machine, she might prevent machines from stopping, and you will improve your process. Third recommendation will be related with this visual information. So this is one recommendation you're already dealing with. This is part of your plan. When we went there the first time, this was not there. And this is also a cultural recommendation. As we spoke during our last meeting, you want more proactive employees that make their own decisions. At the moment, the culture in Worthington is one in which employees are always looking for what to do next. And they are dependent on voice orders. We want employees that make their own decisions, but not only their own decisions, but the best possible decisions. So we want to give them tools in order to do this. The first recommendation is the visual information. We already have the way flow here. This is a sheet in which that's a spreadsheet full of information to do to know about the whole process. The second recommendation is schedule 1 day in advance. If the employees know what they are going to do on 1 day, they will be capable to make better decisions about what to do next without asking the managers what to do next. The third recommendation will be to empower employees to make decisions. The actual culture, most of the time they're afraid about making their own decisions. They are so focused in their own task that they are not thinking about the process as a whole. If we start improving this culture and changing this culture, this will, in the midterm, improve the process. There's also an important factor here which is related with staffing. We already talked about this during our previous meeting. We have two critical problems. First, there's only one operator dealing with 2 machines. It's really important to solve this issue because there's a risk of lost knowledge there. You are depending on one employee to handle all of this information and to handle all this process. So which are the recommendations? First, you're doing a really good job, Chris, starting a building relationship with universities such as UMass. You have 5 universities in the area. You told us that the kind of employees you have need to have a good educational background, but at the same time they want to do the hard job, the dirty job, the manufacturing job. So this kind of employee will be finding this in these universities. So building a strong relationship with the universities will help you to solve this problem. The second problem we're facing is the cross-training the second recommendation is to do a cross-training and having a training matrix. Why? If we want to reduce the risk of lost knowledge, we want to have as many employees as possible knowing as many tasks as possible. The only way to achieve this is by doing a cross-training and a training matrix process. There's also, we also need to standardize process. Why? Standardization is not the final answer to the question of how to do things, but the first instruments you need in order to measure and to improve. By standardizing process, it will be easier to trespass this information. We already talked about training. You described yourself as that training is not one of your most important competitives. So you can do 2 things with this. Most companies hire an outside trainer that deals with this important part of the process, or you can develop training skills in-house. This will take some time, but it will pay off in the short term. Last but not least, we want to implement a continuous improvement culture. Why we want to do this? Well, we want to have employees that are more proactive, as Rafael mentioned during the meeting. I wish we had a culture where people will speak up when they have ideas. So let's start by celebrating ideas. Maybe implementing an idea system will be a long-term goal, but we can start applying a monthly meeting in which employees will feel in a safe place where they can share their ideas, when they can talk about what they are doing, and we can understand more about what other people are doing in order to improve what they are doing, to improve someone else's job, and change their task-oriented mentality into a process-oriented mentality. Now Alexandra will talk more about the post-production.
Thank you. Okay, so back to our little story here. Victor, good news, got his circuit boards on time as he wanted. He was able to manufacture his own product and get it to his customer on time, thus completing this value stream all the way from the supplier to the end user, in which Worthington Assembly played a key role. Is that the end of the story, though? No! Probably not. This is a really critical time in building customer relationships. A lot of people think the circuit board has left the factory, the customer relationship is over. But in fact, it's not, and there's two key reasons why. The first one is that if that customer continues to grow and build their idea and actually becomes a viable business with a Kickstarter campaign and networking in the startup community, they're probably going to need more boards. And if they had a positive experience, they're going to come back to you guys, and that's customer retention. They're also going to speak to their industry peers and tell them about their positive experience with you, and that's customer acquisition, because they're bringing in new customers. So those two key pieces are what drive your revenue. And so we know that meaningful customer relationships are a key ingredient in building sustainable competitive advantage, but it's also a key form of your revenue, and that's what you were tasked us with, of making more money, and we believe that that post-manufacturing process is still key in developing those relationships and bringing in more revenue. And one of the ways to do that is by effectively leveraging a CRM. Now we know that, Chris, you have a complicated relationship with Salesforce, but we don't want that to overshadow the value that a CRM can bring to you guys as a tool. We do not think it should replace any of the fantastic things you guys do to build relationships with your customers. It's simply a back-of-the-house tool to manage customer profiles, keep track and maybe rank customers in terms of their profitability to you guys, keep track of their profiles, so when you do have a return customer, after months or years, you will have that data right in front of you. And it also allows you guys to communicate better with each other, maybe more remotely, having more time away from the actual office, and being able to see the picture of what's going on when each of you are talking to the same customers at the same time. All that information would be stored collectively. And all of that eventually drives customer lifetime value. So, to go back to our little story, where is Victor 1 year later? Well, ideally, if his business is successful, he's still going to these networking events. He's talking to other potential clients of yours and telling them about his experience with you. He's active on social media, maybe giving shout outs to Worthington Assembly's Twitter handle, saying they did a great job in manufacturing his boards. And maybe he's ready to reorder. Is he going to do it with Worthington Assembly? We hope so. What is Worthington Assembly doing a year later? Ideally, you guys are at the same events. You're networking with him, connecting with his peers, and being a part of that community. You're also reaching out and seeing how his business is doing. Using a CRM, not with stock emails, because we know how you feel about stock emails, but using it as a reminder tool, saying, hey, it's been 3 months since you've talked to Victor. Send him a personal email, give him a phone call, see how he's doing. And the CRM can be a tool to remind you to do that. And hopefully, if things are going well, maybe you've seen on social media that his business is growing, you've been watching him on Kickstarter, you check in and see that he does want to reorder. So to go to the big picture, that's Victor. And we believe that that ideal customer will drive more and more customers to your business, grow your reputation, and ultimately contribute to this big picture. The whole point of telling this story is to really personify each of these steps. And we believe that all of these recommendations that we've given are turning points in this wheel of success. Because ideally, once it starts spinning, that's really exciting, right? I was really moved by that. Once it starts spinning, it will just keep going on its own. That's the flywheel concept from Good to Great. You guys have read it. We think that with a few key pushes right now, this period in your business, you can get it going. But there is a very strong sense of urgency in our opinion. A lot of these recommendations that we've talked about, I'm just going to summarize them really briefly here, are risks that can be seen as opportunities. And there's things that we think should happen soon and things that should happen even sooner. We really do see these as urgent opportunities. The first one, as Nick talked about, is training and setting up a training schedule. We think that regular training should be scheduled into your guys' calendar year soon. But sooner than that is to figure out a training checklist of what needs to happen with each of the key roles and what are the current holes in your employees and departments. Because if you don't necessarily understand what people need to be trained on, you can't really make that big picture training schedule, and professional development is a key component of continuous improvement. Also, the idea problem-solving culture that Nick described takes time. Ideally, it would happen soon, but we think there need to be some steps in between this, ideal working environment where everyone's problem-solving and making really great decisions on their own. And so sooner, we would like to see regular meetings, either weekly or monthly, as Nick talked about, as places where ideas can be shared and group problem-solving can happen. Finally, the CRM that we've been talking about and we've explained in a lot of detail in our meeting with you guys last week, and so we can go send you that information as well. We didn't want to really drill down into too much detail. We do think that does need to happen soon, but it is more of a long-term tool. And right now, we really want to focus on those customer relationships and networking in both the Western Mass startup community and in New York City eventually. And as your client base and network base begins to grow, that will grow your need for a CRM. So sooner and soon, that's kind of how we see that playing out. We realize that this isn't necessarily a tomorrow implementation idea. But in stressing this, we do want to stress how urgent some of these issues are, but that they aren't unmanageable issues. That all of these recommendations that we see are totally treatable, fixable problems that you guys have the tools to do. And so we want to leave you with this final thought from Jim Collins. We do believe that Worthington Assembly can be a great company, and Professor Robinson has taught us that it's actually easier to be great than it is to be good. And with a few key pushes, we can get that flywheel going, and you guys can absolutely get to well beyond that 5 million mark that you told us about. And with that, we'd also like to thank you so much for welcoming us into your company so openly. We learned so much from you and your staff, and we really appreciate it, so thank you.